Today we're at High Bridge. Built in 1853, the bridge carried the South Side Railroad over the Appomattox River. 20 brick piers standing from 60 to 125 feet tall supported a wooden superstructure spanning over 2,400 feet. A smaller bridge for wagons and foot traffic crossed the river immediately below the bridge and off to our right. The bridge you see today was built after the war, but the stone pillars from the Civil War era bridge are just off to the left if you are here in person. After retreating from the advancing Confederates, Lieutenant Colonel Kellogg hoped to accomplish the detachment's mission of destroying High Bridge. He asked for men to try and set fire to the bridge while the infantry held the hard-pressing Confederates at bay. Colonel Moulton sent a party of men from Company A under Sergeant David Bryan to try. Sergeant William Stern, Corporal John McBride, Private William Caulfield, and Private Jacob James accompanied Sergeant Bryan. The men set off through the woods to avoid detection while the rest of the 54th Pennsylvania prepared for the next Confederate advance. The two regiments took up a position on a rocky hill just directly to our front and prepared to meet the pursuing Confederates. Troopers from the 6th Virginia Cavalry charged the infantry. Sergeant Marshall Van Scoten recalled the Confederates advanced in front and on both flanks. The Federals, grasping the predicament they faced, put up a determined resistance and fired several volleys at the Confederate horsemen. Their fire temporarily checked the Confederates. Sergeant Steinman later wrote, "A small force held at bay the enemy till the last cartridge had expended in good use. The infantry retreated to High Bridge and took up a defensive position on the edge of the valley. Confederate cavalry reformed and charged the infantry again. Realizing the hopelessness of further resistance and almost completely out of ammunition, Lieutenant Colonel Kellogg surrendered his command, who the Confederates had actually pushed off to our right and down into this gully away from that footbridge. The men in the 54th Pennsylvania and 123rd Ohio reluctantly threw down their arms. The Confederates' quick strike temporarily saved High Bridge. Unaware the Confederates now controlled High Bridge, Sergeant Bryan's squad returned from their attempt to set fire to the bridge. A Confederate major rode towards the squad with 5 other men, fired his revolver at them, and demanded their money. Not knowing the regiment surrendered, the squad returned fire, mortally wounding the major. More Confederates arrived and captured Sergeant Bryan's men, stripped them of all their money and clothing, and angrily marched them to General Longstreet's headquarters. With the sting of surrender still fresh, the 54th Pennsylvania and the 123rd Ohio suffered a further indignity. "They took anything of value from us," recalled Sergeant Steinman of his Confederate captors. In many instances, when one had good clothing, he was soon divested thereof and given a substitute therefor some miserable rags. An angry Private George Pyle wrote, "They stripped us of everything we had." Sergeant Van Scoten added, "After the rebels had collected their Union prisoners together, they placed them under a heavy guard and gave them a thorough searching for greenbacks. But fortunately for the company, whose men had not been paid for many months, they had nothing to lose. Not satisfied with robbing the poor fellows of their little money and valuables, they also took their rations and shelter tents, and one half-breed went so far with his outrages as to slip slyly behind Yank and exchange hats with him." Sergeant Van Scoten concluded, "It being now within an hour of sunset, the prisoners were formed into line with light marching orders, and were marched back over the same route so recently traversed with far different anticipations. Confederate cavalry turned their prisoners over to General Longstreet's provost, Captain Scott. Confederates took the Federal wounded to one of the farmhouses nearby and left them without any medical care or food, including the 54th Pennsylvania's mortally wounded Lieutenant Cyrus Patton with a bullet in his head. When they started the march again, a Federal officer yelled to his Confederate captors, 'Never mind, boys. Old Grant is after you. You will all be in our predicament in 48 hours. Many in the 54th Pennsylvania hoped the boast proved prophetic. Thank you for watching this episode of In the Footsteps of the 54th.